would be severing a life source that thousands of California families and children rely upon.
Thank you for your testimony.
Yes. Good morning. I'm Pat Mosteller, and I'm from San Diego. I represent the non-credit departments and students who are going to be defunded because of, or would be defunded if recommendation 4.1 is accepted. We're very, very concerned about this because this actually excludes entire populations from non-credit education, like older adults and parents. Also, some of our citizenship, the students that are taking our citizenship classes. I'm now going to speak about the older adult program because that's who I represent personally. In the older adult programs, dementia and cognitive decline and Alzheimer's is on the rise, and it creates a profound effect on the quality of life of the seniors in our community and their families and the entire community, in fact. Recently, because of research that has been done, we now know a lot more about brain plasticity and neurogenesis, and we know that the causes of cognitive decline are not a wearing down of the machinery of the brain like was previously thought, but are actually, there are four main causes of cognitive decline, and all of those can be reversed or prevented through education. Disuse is, which we all know, use it or lose it. You stop using your brain and you lose a lot of the function of your brain. But also using your brain in the wrong way causes major problems and leads to cognitive decline. Also something called let me gather my thoughts. The four causes are misuse, disuse, noisy processing, which is what happens when you do get older and you stop using your brain in the correct way. The processing, the auditory and visual processing goes in at a slower pace. It takes the brain longer to process it, and so the processing is not as clear and the memories are not as lasting. The other thing is neuromodulatory control system in the brain actually decreases as we get older, and that again used to be thought to be because the brain was wearing out and getting older. Now they know that we can actually generate the neuromodulators that our brain knows, that our brain uses to stay healthy through education. And it's not just education, but it is how the education is delivered. So the California Community College educators of older adults have been working very hard to redevelop all of our curriculum so that every course we teach now contains these components that make brains healthier as students learn. So it doesn't really matter what the discipline is. What's more important is how the class is delivered and how the teaching strategies and the learning strategies that are used in the classroom by the instructor and the students. We have come so far, and this has taken about 4 years. My college granted me a sabbatical 4 years ago to study the relationship between cognitive health in seniors and education, and we are implementing this into all of the courses we're teaching in the state right now. The California Community College Educators of Older Adults is an organization that we formed about 14 years ago and have invited every older adult program in California to be a part of. There are a couple of colleges who don't agree with what we're doing and they do their own thing, but the majority of the colleges are really working on the cognitive health of seniors and keeping seniors out of the health care, off of the health care and social services. We feel that our classes are so vital to this population, and 4.1 would actually exclude all funding for all older adult programs. The only alternative would be to switch these to community ed programs and charge a fee for them, but I just want you to know that 6 years ago in San Diego we had to close 300 older adult classes, so we did offer them all as fee classes. We offered the community to continue the classes and pay the fee. We were not able to keep even one of those classes open because the prices were too high for the students to be able to afford. Most of the seniors in our programs are on very very low or fixed incomes, and community ed is just not the answer for those programs. So please, if nothing else, ask for an actual breakout of what the savings would be to the state from older adult, because we are the lowest funded of all of the programs in the community college system. We really use a very, very tiny part of the resources in the community college system, and we get so much in-kind contributions from our community advocates and our community collaborations. Most of our classes are offered in off-site locations like rec centers, community centers, churches, where they don't charge us rent at all. We also partner with the American Heart Association, the Alzheimer's Association, AARP, and the Arthritis Foundation to create curriculum, to use their research. They actually train our instructors for free so that we can go back and offer these very, very valuable classes to our seniors. So please look into the older adult classes in this recommendation.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. Kathy Sunderling with the County Welfare Directors Association. We have submitted comments and did send a copy to your staff yesterday. I've got a couple copies with the sergeant in case you would like those. Our two sets of areas of comment really focus on the CalWORKS program as well as the Foster and Kinship Care Education program, which you've heard a lot about so far today. So I'm going to focus my remarks primarily on the CalWORKS issues that are raised in the recommendations. We appreciate the Chancellor's focus and Mr. Skinner's comments regarding the need to really think about underserved and higher need students as we look towards student success. It's why we're urging that the CalWORKS funding and targeted services that are provided to our CalWORKS recipients not be folded in pursuant to recommendation 8.1 into the block grant and remain a separately funded categorical program. CalWORKS students in the community colleges disproportionately come from underserved populations. They're more likely to be students of color. They're far more likely to be female. They're older, and far more of them are receiving fee waivers for their education. But though you might think these students would struggle and not do as well as their peers, the CalWORKS partnerships that counties have been able to forge with the community colleges have really shown tremendous success. Between 2007 and 2010, we've seen more AA and AS degrees awarded and more more units that can be applied towards certificates as well. Those have all grown during this time. Our county Welfare to Work programs partner very closely with their community colleges to provide these opportunities. As you know, research indicates that a combination of education and employment is likely to provide the most long-lasting and long-term success for CalWORKS families. And I know you also know from your work on the Human Services Committee that we do struggle to meet our welfare participation rates at the federal level. These educational opportunities can count toward that. And so we're concerned that if it's folded in and these programs are lost or reduced, we will end up reducing our ability even further to meet this participation rate, especially in a time when employment is so hard to find in so many of our counties. Just briefly on the foster care education program, we share the concerns, like I said. We really rely on the partnerships that we have with the 62 programs throughout the state to ensure that we have a sufficient, well-trained group of foster parents to care for the children that we bring into foster care. Not just the potential loss of $5 million in federal matching funds through Title IV-E, but also our inability to provide appropriate services at the right level, the lowest, most community-based setting and family-like setting for these children jeopardize other federal funding that we receive, and also, as noted by one of the previous speakers, jeopardize our ability to do AB 12 in the way that we expect starting in January. This is a brand new area. Many foster parents will be called upon to continue serving older youth who are now transitioning to adulthood. Technically, they are going to be adults. They'll be 18 plus. And training them and understanding the issues that they're seeing is going to be vitally important to making sure that AB 12 works. So for all ages of the spectrum, from the baby you've seen to the teenagers, we really urge that 8.1 recommendation also be changed with respect to this program. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Good afternoon, Senator Liu. Thank you for the opportunity to present. My name is Kali Braden. I'm the Academic Senate President for Cosumnes River College, a member of the Los Rios Community College District. I wanted to bring to your attention a concern that some of the faculty have about the process of vetting the Student Success Task Force. Of the 17 events that are listed on the State Chancellor's Office of presentations, 13 of them are closed membership events that are actually only 4 events that are public meetings. This is one of those 4. 2 of the 3 events that are being put forth are actually after the Student Success Task Force meeting on November 9th, in which they're supposed to aggregate the comments from the field in order to put forth the final presentation. So there is a concern that we're not actually having a voice in this Student Success Task Force. I think as you've seen today, there are concerns out there, but when there are only 4 public meetings that are going to be presented before the presentation of this to the board in December, that gives us a concern that maybe our voices aren't even going to be heard. We're very excited about the opportunities that are presented in the Student Success Task Force, but as Dr. Harris put forth, we are concerned with the unintended consequences, and we want to make sure that we evaluate all of these before they go complete forward.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Senator Tony Triguero on behalf of the California Teachers Association. I'm going to start with the list that was handed out by the Chancellor's Office with the list of statute, regulation, and budget, administrative policy, and local best practice. 2.1 is the common centralized diagnostic assessments. It's our understanding that recommendation is in fact different from the AB 743 proposal the governor just signed and indicated there wouldn't be any state funding for, and so we're a little bit concerned about having 2 different assessment activities taking place simultaneously or in conjunction with each other that are not designed to work together. We do have concerns about 7.1, a stronger community college system office based on Prop 98 funding, which we would obviously oppose, and we have traditionally opposed all the efforts made by the Chancellor's Office to hire faculty outside, hire staff outside the civil service process that currently exists, and having exempt positions. We've been down that road. There's been sponsored ledge to do that in the past that the faculty groups have opposed. 7.4 talks about the longitudinal student record system. We don't know if that's CalTIDES, if it's something completely different. And we do have concerns about collapsing the categorical programs. For those of us that have been around a really, really long time, we know that categoricals are created because the districts have not responded to the students' needs in those particular areas. And by collapsing them, we believe we'll probably end up back where we started. There's a couple of other subtle changes in reference to how the draft document is presented. In some areas, we talk about transfer, career tech, and basic skills in that order. In other areas, we talk about basic skills, career tech, and transfer. It seems to us that if those 3 areas are the 3 areas we're going to prioritize for community colleges, we should put them in some kind of consistent order and stick with that order. We did, the legislature did in 2009-10 budget, ask the districts to prioritize their costs and budgets on those 3 areas, and based on the testimony we had in Senate Education this year on AB 515, we don't have any information from the Chancellor's Office as to what districts have made those cuts according to those 3 areas and which ones have not. So we think there's still a lot of data to be gathered from the existing colleges. We think a lot of the recommendations can be implemented without statute, and we encourage the districts themselves to look at those. We do have a problem in referring to the system as a system and comparing it to UC and CSU when in fact the districts are completely independent, and whether or not you just strengthen the authority of the Chancellor's Office without connecting those districts together may not have the consequences, the intended consequences that we had all hoped for. So that's something that was also in the original, the review of the Alpert Master Plan as to how that system should look down the road. So it might be time to revisit that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Andrea York on behalf of the Faculty Association of California Community Colleges and the California Community College Association for Occupational Education, which represents the dean, faculty, and staff in the CTE programs. We echo the comments of Tony with CTA and specifically with the categoricals and student support services. We don't want to see students all with very real needs having to go to compete against each other at local boards. That's just bad policy, and we don't believe it's going to lead to greater student success. Just a couple of comments, as I have already submitted a letter to you. One, the task force recommendations do not mention the need for increased full-time faculty. That is perhaps one of the most vital components to student success. We are at very low numbers. We're not reaching our 75-25 ratios, and we would like to see something in reference in that document to the need for full-time faculty. And then just quickly, secondly, combining career technical education services. That's a complicated proposition. We really need to research that, take a better look at it, and make sure that any proposal will in fact lead to more course offerings, because under this proposal, we're concerned that it wouldn't. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Reagan Overholt, representing First 5 Yolo Children and Families Commission. As a partner and funder of our local foster kinship care and education program, I'm stunned by the possibility of consolidating and potentially eliminating this valuable program from our local community college. First 5 YOLO has provided funding to enhance the efforts of the FKCE program at Woodland Community College and has seen amazing results, which includes saving our county social services over $150,000 per year by providing qualified local foster home placements, increasing the total number of licensed families, and ensuring that more YOLO foster children are spending less time in transit to visit their birth families and are in less restrictive environments. Since the partnership began in 2008, the program has increased the number of foster parents in YOLO by 92%. We feel like YOLO County could serve as a model for other programs throughout the state. And in addition, I personally have benefited from the foster kinship and care and education services as a foster to adoptive mother. The support, the education, and resources made the difference not only in my ability to parent, but in the lives of my children, who had an opportunity to meet and interact with other children who were in the child welfare service, and often eliminate or at least lift the often shameful and uncomfortable label of being a foster child. We're here to, again, ensure that the foster kinship care and education programs are retained at the community college level and that this recommendation to consolidate does not continue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Senator. My name is Ben Nye. I'm a foster parent. I had my foster daughter with me just a few moments ago, but she expired. I'm here today because my wife and I had considered fostering or maybe even adopting, but we already have 5 biological children, so it wasn't really that important to us. And it wasn't until we had an outreach from the local foster and kinship care education system where we decided to go ahead and take the plunge and get a little bit of education and then decide if we wanted to continue. So we attended the local community college for free, and we were able to get a solid education that helped us have the ability and the courage to go ahead and proceed with bringing 2 young children into our lives. Having teenage children at home, we were already a busy family, but the dynamics of our family changed dramatically when we brought in 2 children, one 2 months and the other 17 months. We have now had them for nearly 2 years, and it won't be long until we will adopt them. But I can tell you that we would have never gone through this process had we not had the education nor the relationships that were established while we were meeting in these classes. I'm one of 35,000 that receive this education in the state of California each year. The state of California pays us as foster parents, but it's not nearly as much as what would be paid if these children were placed in group homes, which may be the case if this education is no longer available. I encourage you that if any way possible that you can retain the funds for the education, it's well worth your while and ours. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that concludes public comment. I really appreciate all of your time that you have spent this morning with us, and we will note all of the public comments. And I know the Chancellor's office is busy writing comments down also. We do need to find some balance between letting our institutions manage their affairs and holding these institutions accountable for their performance. So all the outcomes needed to support the success of students and the state as a whole, and this is just part of a conversation that is just beginning for us. And I just really appreciate all of you coming forward today and enlightening the legislature member as to what is going on with that task force. And we have lots of work to do, but I really do appreciate the time you've taken to come before us today. So the meeting is adjourned.